Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Ryan Turley here, and tonight I've got something really exciting to share with you. I'm gonna be smoking a full Packer brisket on my Traeger grill. Before we get into it, I need to trim some of the fat off of this brisket. We're gonna start out by taking some of the fat cap off and rounding out some of the edges just so it cooks a little bit more evenly, and then take off a big chunk of fat called the decal on the brisket, and then finally some of the silver skin on the bottom. I've already got the Traeger fired up. It's about 11 p.m. here, and I plan on putting the brisket on around midnight so that it'll finish in the afternoon sometime tomorrow. I've got the brisket in the freezer. It's been thawed out, but I threw it in the freezer just for about 30 minutes just so that it could stiffen up a little bit, and it makes the fat a lot easier to trim down. So this is the bottom of the brisket. We've got this big piece of meat here called the decal, and we're gonna wanna trim all of that out, as well as any of this gray or brown skin that you might see here along the edges. And then this fat cap on this back side here, we're gonna wanna trim down to about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch. And any of this really firm or really hard meat here, we're just gonna wanna trim that out as well, because that's not gonna render down during the smoke. So let me just explain real quick what we're looking at here. We've got the flat of the brisket, and then up in this area here, the thicker part is the point. And those are two separate muscles that are combined here together with some fat in this section here. So let's get started. So this is that decal that I was talking about. None of this is gonna render down, and it's really gonna slow down your cook if you leave this on. So I'm just gonna take all of this out, and I'm just slowly working my way through, just real gently, until we find the meat. Another important benefit of trimming is it allows the rub to work its way into the meat. All right, so we're gonna get some of this brown and gray meat off of here. It's really not gonna cook all that great. I'm also gonna round this side off. This is a really thin section right here, and this is gonna cook a lot faster than the rest of it, so I just wanna make sure that we're getting a nice, even cook here. This whole fat section has gotta go as well. This is not gonna render that well. It's really, really hard. That's another indicator that that's just fat that you do not want as a part of your cook. Flip it around here to get a better angle. That is just all fat right there. That is all gotta go. Now time to work on the fat cap. So we're gonna leave most of this here, and we are gonna trim off some of this skin, and then all of this hard layer here we are gonna take off. Gotta be real careful here not to take off too much fat, because we do want to leave some of that fat cap on there. It is gonna add some moisture to the meat. All right, so next we are gonna take off some of the silver skin off of the top of this here. So the flat grain is running this way, and the point is kind of running along like this. So they do run in opposite directions. So that's just something to keep in mind when it comes time to slice. Now it is time to apply the dry rub. So I'm not gonna be injecting this brisket. I just wanna try something a little bit different this time. If you wanna see me inject another brisket, you can check out another one of my videos, and the link to that will be in the description of this video. So what I've got today is Suckle Buster's SPG, which is a blend of salt, pepper, garlic, and other spices. It's super simple. So we are just going to layer this down, making sure to apply it to all sides, corners, edges, all of it. The same on this side. I'm not using a binder, but a lot of people use Worcestershire sauce. I've seen mustard used or olive oil, but you really don't need it. I'm gonna give it about 10 or 15 minutes for this rub to penetrate a little bit into the meat. And then we can throw it onto the smoker. And it's about midnight now. I'm hoping this should be done cooking in about 15 hours. The Traeger is all heated up at about 225 to 250, and we are ready to throw this full Packer brisket on here. So we're gonna throw this temperature probe in here. I like to just see where I want it to end up. Pretty much just like right here. And then I can just go straight down to where my finger meets the meat, and we should be good to go.
The next day.
It's just what I needed. So the brisket has been on for about 7 hours, and the temperature, internal temperature, is running really nice right now. I've got one probe in the point and another probe in the flat, and we're running right at about 160, 170. So we're probably in the stall stage of this smoke. And so what the stall is the meat is gonna slow down and stop heating up. It's gonna meet a point where it's gonna start sweating and perspirating, and that sweat is actually gonna be cooling it off at the same time. So once it loses a little bit of that moisture, it can work its way back up to that goal of 203 degrees internal temp. So let's jump in there and see how it's looking. Basically, I'm gonna be looking for a really nice bark, and once I'm happy with that color, I'm gonna wrap it in some peach butcher paper. I don't think we're quite there yet. I still want a little bit more color on the bark, but it's looking really, really good. And you can see that sweat there, that perspiration starting to kind of work its way off. It's looking great though.
1 hour later.
The bark's looking really nice. I think I'm gonna pull it out and wrap it in that peach butcher paper. The brisket looks really nice. The bark is exactly where I want it. Great color, really nice texture. So let's get this wrapped so we don't lose too much heat here. I've got 2 strips of butcher paper here, both about 18 inches wide. And we're just gonna wrap over the top this way. And I've got to remember that the fat cap is down, and I want to keep the fat cap down.
Three hours later.
If you can see this, my internal temperature is at 202 degrees. The grill is running at about 250, and the brisket has been on for about 13, 14 hours, and I think she's ready to pull off. So we're gonna jump in there. We're gonna throw this additional probe in just to check the texture and see if this slides in like butter. And if so, then we're good to go. So in that case, we'll be wrapping it with a towel and throwing it in a cooler for a couple of hours so that that meat can rest and continue to break down and tenderize. Let's give it one more spot probe check here. Oh yeah, that is like butter. And 203 degrees, perfect. So let's throw it in the cooler for a couple of hours and let that brisket rest. just gonna wrap this one last time in another set of butcher paper here. Try to reduce any amount of spilling that may occur in the cooler. So we are gonna wrap it in this old towel here. Barely gonna fit, but I know it will. And I'm gonna set my timer for 2 hours. You know, you really only need to let it rest for 45 minutes to an hour if you're in a time crunch and you're trying to feed some hungry guests or your family. But I'm gonna let it rest for 2 hours and really just soak up as much juice and as much moisture as possible. All right, so we are ready to cut into this brisket here. And again, it looks amazing. This jiggle right here is a really good sign that we pulled it at a really good temperature. So we can actually still see the grains on this flat here. And those are all gonna be running this way. So we're gonna wanna cut it against the grain this direction. I'm actually gonna cut it right down the center here. Just go for it, full send. Wow. Oh, look at that, you guys. Look at those juices. This flat came out so nice. The marbling here on the point, oh, it looks so good. All that fat is just oozing out of that. Oh, that smoke ring came out perfectly. We're gonna make one really nice cut against the grain. So, perfect smoke ring. I just cut the flat off. Super juicy, super tender, really nice fold, and amazing pull. Look at that, it just falls right apart. Compared to my last video, I did not inject this time. I also did not spritz nearly as often. This was also a full Packer brisket as opposed to just the point. So if you haven't checked out my other brisket video, be sure to click the link above. Last step is the taste test. So we are just gonna dive right in here. Look at that pull, super, super tender. Juicy, great flavor, awesome bark. It's got a really nice crunch to the outside. Amazing. So if you enjoyed the video or you learned something, please leave me a like. I'll be posting a new video every week, so be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss another upload. Until next time, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys all have an awesome day.